Ember app contains it all, your templates big and sometimes small. Learn routers, routes, components to let Ember models work for you. Controllers to help decorate the views which you can integrate. Mix them together in December, warming up with Ember.
You're watching Warming Up with ember6, and this is level 3, where we're going to take a route through the woods and learn about resource routes. In the last level, we learned about controllers. Remember, the name of the controller matches the name of the route and the template name. And then if we take a look inside the template, remember, templates use properties from controllers. Well, in this level, we're going to build a products list. So when we click on that products link up above, it's going to show all of our products on our products page. Obviously, the first step when we have a new page we want to add in our application is to add a new route for it. So here we are back in our router. But before we do that, we need to make sure we understand the difference between regular routes and these new routes called resource routes. See, regular routes are typically adjectives, verbs, or adverbs. So an adjective might be something like on sale, expiring, new, or internal. While a verb route might be something like sign up, ignite, help, or rate. Resource routes, on the other hand, are typically nouns. Things like tree, review, books, or contacts. Notice they can be singular or plural. In our case, we have a list of products, so we're going to call our resource route products and put that up there inside of our router. A resource route behaves a lot like a normal route, except it has some additional functionality, which we'll get to later in this level. Just like a route, if we want to, we can pass in an optional path, as you see here. We can also define a template with the same name that will get rendered when we go to that route. Lastly, to add a link to this route, we simply do as we've done before and say link to products, tag name li, because our links are list items. Here you can see if we go to this URL listed here, we'll see that the link has a class of active because we're in the products route, and it renders the products template, as we'd expect. To build out this page, we want to list out a series of products, but we want to pull that list out of some sort of data resource. So let's figure out how to do that now. To properly do this, we're going to need another component called a route. A route fetches data and passes it to the Ember controller. It also decides what model to use in the current route, and it also decides what template to render to the screen. Just to review, every Ember application has one Ember router, which translates paths into routes. Every application can have multiple Ember routes that provides data for the controllers. Now these are two separate components. Don't get them confused. Here comes our diagram again, and as I mentioned a minute ago, the route sits between the router and the controller. Let's solidify this all together. So first of all, we have the router, which defines the routes our application needs. In our case, we have a resource route called products. Then we have the route, which is responsible for getting data from external resources. And just like the controller, it's created by Ember if it's not defined. And this is what the code looks like that it defines for you. Then you have the controller, which decorates the model and provides property values. And this is what the default code looks like for that. Let's take a look at a very basic model. So here you can see we have an array of products that we want to render out into our web page. We're putting it inside of our application. Notice the namespace app. At the end of the next level, we'll show you how you could pull this data out of an API. But for now, we're simply going to store it in our application. Then we're going to define our products route, specifying the model property, which is a function that returns this array. The model property here can either be an object or an array. In our case, we have an array. To put it all together, the route is responsible for fetching the model. Ember will set this model on the controller, and that's what will be used in your handlebar template. So what would happen if we set a handlebars template called products, which simply printed out the model property? In this case, it would print out object, 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 which is really just two objects. And those objects, as you might assume, are our products. This is obviously an array, so we'll need to loop through it to print out the different values. To loop using handlebars, we could say each product in model, and then inside there specify product.title. In this case, it would loop through each item in the model array and print out the product title. It would look something like this. There's a simpler way to write this because our template knows that our data is inside of our model property. We can simply write each, and inside each specify the properties from the product that we want to print out. And our template knows what we're talking about. We want to print out all the information from all of our products, so we're going to create a few more HTML elements, printing out our properties with some styling. And if we go to our browser, we now see a list of all of our products. Time for you to build some resource routes and also some routes. Don't get confused, but that's what you're going to do. It'll make more sense in the challenges.